Hello, welcome to The Exchange. This is going to be a weekly video series that we're going to be posting at Cool and Candid. If you haven't already, go ahead and like our page, share it with all your friends. The idea of Cool and Candid is basically just to foster civil discussion of politics, culture, public policy, all kinds of issues like that. So give us a like. Okay, the first topic that we're going to do today has been on a lot of people's minds. It's how should conservatives vote in 2016? I have a couple of my friends here with me, Andrew Hicks and Elliot Parisi. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick? And you may want to, on this one, tell people a little bit about your own political background, where you're coming from. I think it'll be helpful on this conversation. So Andrew, why don't you start?
Okay, great. My name is Andrew Hicks. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, graduate of Oklahoma Christian University and Oklahoma State University. I currently work in East Africa with a microfinance institution that works with smallholder farmers. Politically, I was raised in a pretty conservative background, but politically, I definitely consider myself maybe can you say a moderate liberal? um, and yeah, I will be voting for Hillary Clinton this year. And in the last two elections, I definitely voted for President Obama. So if that kind of, shows you where I fall. Uh,
Yeah, I think that orients people. How about you, Elliot?
My name's Elliot. I'm a graduate of George Fox University and Pepperdine University. Right now I'm living in the San Francisco Bay Area working for a think tank there. Politically, I'm a Republican. I supported Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz this past election. Right now, I'm leaning towards not voting for Hillary or Trump, but I'm not a firm decision on that either. So I'm still figuring it out.
Okay, and I'm Ben Peterson. My connection with Andrew is I also graduated from Oklahoma Christian, and I also graduated from Pepperdine, like Elliot. So uh, I'm gonna hang back on my own. I'm a completely objective, moderator on this one. So I have no background on that to share. So how should conservatives vote in 2016? We're not trying to necessarily just privilege conservatives on the exchange, but this is kind of, I think, a more interesting question because Bernie Sanders hasn't officially endorsed Hillary yet, but I bet that's likely. I think Democrats are going to kind of fall in line, barring it, unless Hillary gets indicted or something like that. But on the Republican side, the expected nomination of Donald Trump has basically has the likelihood of splitting the party. Some have come out and said yes, we have to support Trump, but columnists like George Will, conservative columnists like George Will, for instance, recently left the Republican Party last week, said he's officially going unaffiliated. So it's going to be a big question. People are going to be making their decisions. So. Andrew, you kind of initiated this conversation, so I wanted to give you the first shot at convincing Elliot and everyone and other conservatives why should they vote for Hillary in 2016.
okay, great. So let's start with I think a few simple assumptions that we can all agree on, right? So you have the right to vote as an American. But it's not just that, it's your civic duty to vote. Throughout our short history as a nation, people have fought and died to establish and preserve this right. So let's not take it lightly and say, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to vote. I think that we should all agree right here, right now, we're going to vote. How's that sound, guys?
I'll vote for someone.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so assumption number two.
Writing in count, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, assumption number two. You don't have to vote with the party with which you registered. All right. So if you're a registered Republican, you don't have to vote Republican, right? And we all know this, but it's an idea that we maybe struggle with sometimes. So you as an American, it's your civic duty to look at the candidates that are out there, decide who, amongst those who are running, who is the best candidate to take our country forward. And traditionally, we use the party to frame this decision because we think that the party will choose a candidate that aligns with the party's views. Well, we maybe have that on the Democrat side, but this year the Republicans have Trump, and you know, so basically the good news is you're off the hook because your party did not choose a Republican. The bad news is that you actually have a decision to make this year, and your decision is between, I think, two people, barring some third-party candidate coming along and making a big splash. I think realistically you have to choose between Trump and Clinton, right? So in one corner, you have a person who mocks disabled people, finds it difficult to denounce the KKK, calls Mexicans rapists and criminals, plans to ban people from entering our country based on their religion, supports waterboarding, and I quote, a hell of a lot worse, espouses isolationist foreign policy, as well as protectionist trade policies, wants to wage trade wars with China, thinks Japan and South Korea should get some nuclear weapons because that would save America a little bit of money, has made statements favoring curtailing free speech, has a history of publicly denigrating women, and whose preferred communication tactic is the anytime Twitter rant, etc., etc., etc. That's who you got in one corner. In the other corner, you've got Hillary Clinton, who is she's been vetted over the course of 2 presidential campaigns, 2 statewide campaigns for Senate in New York, one of the nation's largest states, a Senate cabinet confirmation process, multiple terms as First Lady. Basically, the dirt on her is she dropped the ball on embassy security, which led to the Benghazi tragedy, and we're not even sure what level of responsibility she had in that. And she used a private email server as Secretary of State, which there's some evidence that that's a pretty common thing at higher levels of government. And you know, knowing what we know, that Hillary is actually an IT guru and set up her own email server and fully understood the implications of that. I think that's sarcasm, by the way. I think that's the dirt that we have on her, right? Vetted for 30, 35 years in the public eye, been a public servant for many years in a variety of capacities, and those are the things that she's attacked for at this point. And I say that because I think that highlights that I think that she's a pretty safe candidate. Does that make sense? And so we can talk about, there's kind of 2 ways to move forward from here. We can talk about the reasons why you would not want to elect Trump, or we can talk about the reasons why you would like to elect Hillary as a Republican. So I want to throw it over to Elliot or Ben to kind of, I think, move us forward in this, and we can maybe just have a kind of a discussion.
I'll turn to you, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the points you made about Trump are good. I definitely I understand Paul Ryan's argument. His argument is, well, he isn't my choice, but he is someone that will be more likely to follow the Republican Congress's policy agenda. I think that is something that's legitimately to look at. I don't know how well Hillary Clinton would work with Paul Ryan. Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't, and maybe Trump would or wouldn't. I think it's a guessing game, and I think where you have a strong argument, for me at least, is in foreign policy. I think Hillary Clinton has a more hawkish foreign policy than Trump, and I think she has experience in foreign policy where Trump doesn't. Domestically is where I kind of get a little worried, more so about the Supreme Court. Who is she gonna place on the Supreme Court? I don't know. The talk of putting Barack Obama on the Supreme Court doesn't give me peace. I disagree with a lot of things Barack Obama does, and I think the court, it shouldn't, but I think the court has a lot of power right now in our country. And so that I think that is the one like sticking point for me with Hillary supporting Hillary Clinton is the court. And I think yeah, I kind of am leaning on not supporting Trump, but I read people that are supporting Trump, and they in their cases the court the Supreme Court is the reason to support him, because that's going to affect, maybe more than anything else either president is going to do, that's going to affect our country the longest. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I'm not against Hillary. I think I think Brett Stevens, that article from Wall Street Journal, how Trump is hurting, electing Trump would hurt conservatism. I think I already see that in debates I have with people. If you start talking about strengthening laws against illegal immigration or anything, it's seen as racist now, when it's not inherently racist, and I think it's because of Trump, and they always use Trump as an argument, and so I think that hurts that side of the case. So I think electing him would damage the conservative name. Maybe, I don't think forever, but I think it would damage a little bit. But I don't know. I think Clinton is also a gamble, and so I'm not secure. I'm leaning towards not voting for Trump, at least. I'm not secure about voting for Hillary, but her foreign policy would be probably the main reason. Her foreign policy would be the main reason why I would vote for her.
Okay, so let's talk about the court a little bit, because that's the first point you brought up, and I've heard that a lot. You know, well, what about the Supreme Court? We have to vote for Donald Trump because Hillary will want to put some liberal justices on the Supreme Court, right? So luckily we have checks and balances, right? So Hillary gets in the office, she can't just start installing justices on the Supreme Court, right? They have to be confirmed, and that's one of the beautiful things about our system, is that she can't just throw a bunch of people on the Supreme Court. Currently, President Obama has nominated a relatively moderate judge who's been throughout his career praised by Republicans, and I think if Hillary is elected, I think that they will probably push through his confirmation and put him on the Supreme Court, right? I think that's what will happen. I don't think that President Obama will withdraw his nomination, but we can't say for sure what will happen, and then you can't say for sure what Trump will do. The guy's unpredictable. Who's he going to put on the Supreme Court? Is he going to install people? Yeah, he's going to install people that align with his worldview, right? And we're not even exactly sure what his worldview is. And like you said, he is damaging the conservative movement with his kind of radical and I think not well thought out ideas, taking some of these conservative things like immigration reform, tough immigration reform, and taking it, turning it on its head, and what's, I think, racist statements, if not racially inflammatory statements. I would say racist statements. And so you don't know what he's going to do. And I think you use the words, I think you have some uncertainty about what Hillary's going to do, but I think looking at her record and looking at how a politician who's been in the public eye for many years is going to behave, I think you can say there's certainly less uncertainty with Hillary than there is with Trump.
How do you see a third-party vote?
I understand the argument that a third-party vote means you're essentially voting for Hillary, but it is also a protest vote. I don't think you can discount that. You're saying these people don't represent my beliefs, and I care about my country, and I can't vote for people that I don't support. But I don't think Gary Johnson is the answer to that, and so that brings it back to, well, okay, Hillary and Donald Trump are the two most likely to win the presidency, and if there was a viable candidate, if Ben Sass decided to run from Nebraska, I would be voting for him, but he's not running, and so I don't know. I don't know if there's not time for a new conservative party now. Maybe in the future. I kind of disagree with George Will of like leaving the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party definitely has some problems, and Trump doesn't represent me or I think the Republican Party. But there's a lot of good Republicans too, and so I think he's kind of wrong in leaving. I think you see people like Paul Ryan and Marco Rubio and Ben Sass, as I said, and Tim Scott from South Carolina. I think these are like new upcoming Republicans, and I think there's a lot of hope for the future. I think this is just a bad time to be a Republican right now. So I'm not for abandoning my party so lightly. But again, I wasn't born a Republican. I was born an American. So I'm not tied to whoever a Republican nominates because they're a Republican. I think my duty as an American citizen is to vote for someone who I think would be best for America. Not that they would be perfect, or not even that they're the choice I want, but who would be best. And if the choice is between Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Gary Johnson, I mean, that's why we're having the debate. Like I don't know. I sometimes I like think about voting for Hillary because of foreign policy. And I think if Republicans decide to vote for Garrett Garland, I think that's his name, after Hillary wins in the lame duck session, I think that would calm me down at least. And I think that would be the smart thing. I think they should do that now, because I think Andrew's absolutely right. We don't know who Trump is going to elect. Let's say the Democrats win the Senate in this coming election. I can't see Trump still putting up as strong as conservative judges. I think he would work with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer on his judicial nominations, and so I think if the Republicans in the Senate put Garland in, who I don't agree with on everything, I think that would allow me an easier time to vote for Hillary. And so I guess I'm in the wait and see period right now, and I'm open. And I guess it comes back to foreign policy. I think we need to reassert our foreign policy, and I think Clinton. I agree with Clinton on a lot of instincts that she has on foreign policy. Not everything, but on a lot of things. And I think we need some stronger foreign policy. And I think you can't discount that as the reason to vote for someone. And I read that piece by Tom Cotton that we were reading about him supporting Donald Trump, and I thought Jeffrey Goldberg had a good rebuttal. He's like, well, the position in foreign policy you support, Hillary Clinton has said the same statements, and Donald Trump doesn't say those statements. He even said that Iraq war was a conspiracy theory by George Bush, and you can debate if it was a good war or not, but I don't think it was like some kind of scheme to destroy Iraqis. It could have been just a foolish war, if you believe that, but I don't think it was some kind of he just wanting to steal the oil. So yeah, I think Trump has a lot of instability in foreign policy and domestic policy, and he's more, right now at least, he's more of the wild card than Hillary. She is more stable. I guess the domestic policy is what scares me with her. So, but I mean, you're not going to get a perfect candidate, and I think I can lean towards supporting Hillary more than Trump, more policy-wise.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to respond to the third-party question real quick, and then I want to talk about domestic policy and your qualms with voting for Hillary based on domestic policy. So the first thing, the question I think was, what about a third-party candidate? The viability of a third-party candidate, I think, is questionable at best, especially this late in the game. And I admittedly, I did say at the beginning that we should look at all the candidates to decide who's best for our country, but I admittedly don't know much about Gary Johnson. And the reason for that is because I don't think it in any realm of possibility could he be elected president this year. So yeah, and it's too late for maybe a late surge moderate or true conservative to come in and try to pull votes away from Trump enough to make any difference other than ensuring the election of Hillary Clinton. So a vote for Gary Johnson, I guess in a way, is a vote for Hillary Clinton, but I would say philosophically, I think that that's not the way that you should make the decision. So that's kind of my take on third party. And I would, just to throw a plug in here, I would love to see a new conservative party come out of this kind of mess that has resulted in Donald Trump being the nominee for the Republican Party. I would love to be alive in a time and active politically in a time when a new conservative party came out and a bunch of people jumped ship and kind of formed some new, I don't know, hopefully like moderate conservative kind of party that actually did some things for the electorate. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that'd be a really exciting thing to see. And I think that a party like that would pull a lot of moderate or middle of the road Democrats over into it, and it could be a really exciting, like, dynamic time for our democracy. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be great if it did.
Okay, let me throw one more thing at you gentlemen. I should have done this earlier, but okay.
Throw it at us.
The case for Trump as the least bad option for conservatives. And it's two words: America first. Okay, Trump has recognized that there is a big portion of the electorate, I'm not exactly sure how big. He's brought in some independents and even Democrats, especially in the Rust Belt, who have not benefited from free trade, or at least perceive themselves to have not benefited from NAFTA and other free trade agreements. So there's people that are hurting economically that he's brought to the fore. What you guys both kind of described as isolationist policy is actually simply a commitment to take America's interests into account, as the job of the United States government is to first and foremost serve the interests of American citizens. So that's in trade, but also immigration. Like we said, yes, he's said things that he's proposed some things like you said, the ban on Muslim immigration, which even most conservatives find certainly distasteful and not in consonance with Republican government, with our system of government, with our traditions. But the point is, look, we need to reevaluate immigration policy so that it serves American citizens, and so we need to establish border security, things like that, which a lot of people think, especially in the Southwest. So that's what do you think about that? Especially you. Sorry, you're kind of in the hot seat a lot, Elliot, as the Never Trump representative. What do you think about that case that has been made? Most people, yes, he's an unsavory character. He says things that are, at the very least, racially inflammatory, but he's the least bad option because what he wants to do is reorient the American government to where it first and foremost serves the interests of American citizens, and that's not so bad.
I think Andrew has a good argument. We just don't know about Trump. You know, he was a Democrat 4 years ago. You know, he seems to go with whatever benefits him. So I don't know how true his Republican leanings are. I think if your main issue is immigration, then he may be the person that you want to vote for. But he's even hedged on illegal immigration, right? So he's even said, well, that's just a starting point. That's just a negotiating point. So we just don't know about Trump. I mean, I understand that. I understand that point from Andrew, and that's something I think about as well. He's also just kind of an unsavory character as a person, and so I just I don't know. I don't see him being prudent in his decisions, either in foreign policy or domestic policy. I think I do understand Paul Ryan's argument that that if he wins, that he is more likely to follow Republican and conservative reforms than Hillary Clinton. But I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't know about him, and he's a gamble, and I don't know if our country is worth that gamble. And the other thing is the religious liberty issue and freedom of speech issue. He's talked about wanting to redo libel laws. I think that's a pretty scary thing. This is a country known for religious and religious freedom and freedom of speech, and he's gone after all Muslim immigration around the world, even from peaceful countries relatively peaceful countries like India. And so I think that's not a religious liberty candidate either. That's someone that is stoking fear and is not having a reasoned debate. Now, I can understand if he says, okay, well, we gotta vet the immigrants from Syria, coming from Syria, because that has ISIS can infiltrate and any other extremists can infiltrate. I understand that, maybe doing a pause or slowing down, but doing a sweeping ban on Muslim immigration is either for votes, or he doesn't really understand that there are differences in Islamic communities. So I don't know. He just doesn't seem that stable to me.
Okay, Andrew, last word of the day.
So I think I just want to respond to the question that you posed there. And I would say that first and foremost, the American government does serve the interests of the American people. When we expand international trade, it serves the interests of the American people. Sometimes, there's a price to be paid, job losses or certain industry losses. But when we expand international trade, we open up new markets for some of our higher profit. Our exports that we make more money on, basically, right? Technology, pharmaceuticals, etc. And when we do that, not only does it serve an economic benefit, but it's all interrelated. When we help other countries expand economically, it also improves the national security situation for those countries, and in turn improves national security situation for us as Americans. And so all those things are interrelated, and I think that's something that Trump doesn't acknowledge. I don't think he understands it. If he understands it, he doesn't acknowledge it. And if he does understand it, what he's doing is just grabbing onto populist views and spouting them out in order to get votes. So either way, those aren't good things. Let's talk about immigration. Trump. What we need in our country is smart immigration reform. We need some realistic policies that acknowledge, like, we need immigrants. Immigrants are basically the workforce for our agricultural sector. If you want to be able to afford a bowl of salad, then you need immigrants to be out there doing those jobs in the agricultural sector, and that's a fact. And it's not just the agricultural sector. There are a lot of different industries that rely on immigrant workforces to do low-paying jobs, and you can argue how you feel about that, but that's a fact in this country. And so closing the borders, building a wall, doing these things, these are just big populist ideas that don't hold up to the scrutiny of looking at them and analyzing them, how they would work as actual policy. So yeah, that's what I would say about immigration. I think that he just isn't. He doesn't have a real picture of how these things would work and how they would play out in reality. And then we talked about the ban on Muslim immigration, and not to continue down this line, we've all kind of agreed on it. But I would say, Elliot, you brought up a point, maybe looking at immigrants from Syria, looking at refugees from Syria more with more scrutiny. There's already a very long process. It takes, I think it takes several years for an immigrant or a refugee to get to the United States in some cases. There are already processes in place. It's not like we're just have open borders and let anybody in. We're already a very difficult country to immigrate to. Can we improve upon that? Yeah, I'm sure we can. But these kind of blanket statements that clearly haven't been thought through, I think, are very telling about who this candidate is as a person and his level of policy understanding, his level of understanding of governance. So I guess my whole argument, to kind of sum up my whole argument, is Donald Trump as a presidential candidate is a very scary proposition. He has no experience, and we have no idea how he would behave as president. He has no experience in governance. There's no background that we can look at and vet and say this is how this guy would govern. And the kind of views that he espouses and the statements that he puts out lead me at least to believe that he would be a disaster as president. Hillary Clinton has, like I said earlier, she's been vetted for decades. She's held a number of positions in government. She's clearly intelligent. She's clearly, well, some people would say competent. And I think that, at the very least, she's the safest bet for your vote in 2016. At the most, she will be an excellent president who will govern relatively moderately, I think. And it would be great to have her as our first female president in the United States. And I think that she is the clear choice, especially for, obviously, Democrats and liberals, but for moderate Republicans or conservatives who are looking for a more realistic, predictable candidate to move our country forward.
All right. And you're not working for our campaign, right? Right, Andrew?
No.
Okay.
No.
That was pretty good. Maybe you should.
Maybe you should.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the exchange. Like I said, Cool and Candid, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look for our videos. We'll be posting weekly. Thanks. Have a good day.